now here we are, the annual conference, the 25th year. We're doing that online. We've had a huge number of registrations. I think they're all finding their way into the forum. In a bit, I guess we'll have a full house. And in such a context, we thought that we should be talking about how change is something not that would happen probably at an instant, or something that we should wait for. Change is something that's happening every day, and it's the new norm. What was normal yesterday is not normal today, and what is normal today is not norm tomorrow. So in that context, we thought we should bring very well-known speakers in the industry to share their views on what it means to adapt to change, right? And when we say adapt to change, it's not just adjusting to the change. It's going beyond just adjusting and actually thriving in view of change. And when we speak about that, there is one graph that really hits me, right? The graph that talks about moving from comfort zone to the growth zone, right? And I personally relate a lot with this graph, because I think at the beginning of the year, right, we were all in that red zone, right? Maybe Jan 2020 or Feb 2020, we were all in the comfort zone. We were feeling very safe and in control. Come Feb, March, COVID hit, and then most of us were pushed into fear zone. A lot of people I know personally lost their jobs, personally couldn't cope with the changes that were happening around them. But I guess over a period of time, we figured out that we need to move along. We need to move out of the fear zone and get into a learning zone, right? And push ourselves into a growth zone. And this graph is what really describes as to what we should really be focusing at. And the idea by doing that is that we move from one end of the spectrum, which is the fragile, to not to just being robust, but we would become anti-fragile, right? So things that would break when subjected to stress, to things that would actually thrive and benefit from stress, right? So we should be focusing to move from fragility mindset to an anti-fragile mindset. And with that theme and with that context of the conference, I will now invite our chief guest, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, who's our Principal Secretary for Government of Telangana, and Mr. Bharani Kumar Aroll, who's the President of HYSEA, to inaugurate. Obviously, in a physical setting, we would have requested them to light the lamp. And since this is a virtual forum, we're going to make do with the virtual lighting of the lamp. And I'd now request both Mr. Bharani and Jayesh, if you're on, to please come on camera. And as per protocol, I'll now invite Mr. Bharani Kumar Aroll, who's our keynote speaker, to give his keynote address. And we will then move to Mr. Jayesh for his chief guest speech. Over to you, sir, Mr. Bharani.
Thank you, Krishna Praveen. Am I audible well?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, wonderful. Well, respected chief guest of today's conference, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, Mr. Krishna Praveen, Executive Director of HYDSPIN, distinguished speakers, and the HYDSPIN members, the overall ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. Firstly, hearty congratulations to Krishna Praveen and the HYDSPIN team on your 25th annual e-conference, a huge milestone for any organization for that matter. I'm honored to be part of this important conference and share my perspective. Thanks again for inviting me. Well, I represent HYSEA, the primary industry body of Hyderabad IT industry. As you may be aware, that HYSEA is a 28-year-old organization with more than 300 member companies covering 90% of the IT industry in Hyderabad. Our focus areas are fostering innovation ecosystem, nurturing competency, skill development, promoting SME growth, enhancing infrastructure, supporting emerging corridors, and facilitating CSR programs, and thus creating an environment conducive to the growth of IT industry in Hyderabad. HYSEA has worked closely with the government on policy formulation on various issues related to industry. Our focus and vision has been validated by the fact that Telangana IT industry has been registering phenomenal growth over years, thanks to supporting organizations like HYDSPIN, the NASSCOM, and so many other industry bodies. The unstinted support that the state government and its pioneering sectoral policies have played a key role in this achievement, which I definitely would like to appreciate and show my gratitude. HYSEA is committed to engaging with all stakeholders in the IT and innovation ecosystem to create a meaningful impact to our members, startup community, the academia. While our tech business workshops like Tech Series at HYSEA, Business Series at HYSEA, and Growth Net Series at HYSEA are a step in that direction. I would strongly, advise and recommend, the audience here to be able to go and check out all these different, webinars that we do during this COVID time, in the benefit of, the entire industry and yourselves. Thank you. Let's move on to this topic on the theme. I really appreciate the insights given by Krishna Praveen, which I totally endorse and agree that we have to move from a comfort zone, which we've already been doing, to the growth zone, because I will also be talking about that growth aspect as to how that is going to be very critical for us to be able to move forward. Well, it's been a whirlwind time for all of us, and COVID has been a world-changing event. What we are experiencing today is by far the largest disruption our generation has seen. From board meetings going virtual to kids switching to online classes, the disruption has been widespread. Frankly, I can't believe that it's been over 8 months since the start of this pandemic. What was expected to be a few weeks of disruption is already the start of next normal that people and businesses need to be adapting to. While we try and look through the opaque glass of uncertainty, it is time to think constructively about the future, one that is likely to become digitally native. In order to get a detailed insight on the impact of the pandemic on the IT industry, in Hyderabad, HYSEA, in collaboration with KPMG, did a comprehensive survey in the IT industry of Hyderabad, covering all stakeholders, heads of IT companies, government representatives, and representatives of the supportive ecosystem as well. Let me quickly give a summary on the outcome of the survey so that it kind of sets a context too. There had been a significant disruption in the ITS industry, and businesses had to switch to the work from home model practically overnight. I'm sure everybody did, right? All of us here. The industry in the city of Hyderabad, like the rest of the country and the world, was also forced to quickly adapt to new ways of working, but managed very well with proactive support from the Telangana state government, industry bodies such as HYSEA and others. What we found, the report came out with, there are 4 phases of responding to the COVID-19 crisis, which is pretty much in line with what Krishna Praveen articulated, the comfort zone to the growth zone. So what we termed it as is the reaction, which is a past incident, resilience, which is also a past incident. Third is recovery, that is the current phase that we're going through. Last one is new reality, that is the future that we are headed towards. The response to reaction, the resilience phases has been made, and the industry and the world are currently facing up to recovering and shaping the new reality. Hyderabad has been working hard to gearing up for the future by providing in-depth skills to the diverse talent pool with support and commitment from the government and infrastructure development. New organizations continue to set up shop here despite the pandemic, and the current base is looking to expand its operations further. Well, organizations of the future are bearing in mind 3 aspects while considering the new ways of working: virtual delivery models and tools to enable virtual collaboration, and risks involved and how to mitigate them, and cost optimization as well. The key future priorities will be investment in strategic technology element as part of the digital transformation, and refining employee experience and talent management strategies. The new reality will have organizations that are agile and sustainable in their ways of working as value partners, being location agnostic, improving workforce composition and collaboration with the ecosystem. Hyderabad-based organizations showed a lot of resilience, I must say, through the pandemic by keeping operations running through the lockdown with a lot of support by the Telangana government and industry bodies like HYSEA, as I mentioned earlier. Most organizations were able to maintain or even exceed productivity levels that I can proudly say, and went to great lengths to enable stabilize the new operating model of working from home. In a survey conducted by KPMG in India, as I said, 68% of the survey, the organizations had matured infrastructure and practices to support work from home for employees. And the number is likely to be higher for Hyderabad-based organizations due to better than average government Requesting.
Team, can I request you to please go on mute? Sorry.
So we see digital emerging as a big focus area, along with the focus on risk mitigations and customer optimization. With shrinkage in revenue and necessity to keep operations running in sectors such as BFSI, pharma, retail, and others, there's likely to be an uptake in hosted or asset-light delivery models in the future, especially in the slightly smaller organizations, along with great measures for business continuity in the event that such a large-scale pandemic-style situation should extend or occur again. The city of Hyderabad is well positioned to expand further, given its leading position in talent availability, greater general infrastructure, living conditions, and government support. Despite the pandemic, multiple organizations have announced central setups, with some announcing second centers here as well. With even more investment planned, Hyderabad is well set for the future, a new post-COVID-19 normal. You may visit HYSEA.in for the complete report. I would strongly advise that please take a look at it. It shows lots of statistics in terms of how we have mitigated and been very resilient to this very difficult times. Well, let me share my perspective specific to business resilience and thriving in the new normal, as we have had more deliberations on impact for many months. This is based on the information that I've gathered from my peers in the industry, the analysts, my clients, and my own insights. Most organizations have gone through a real-time litmus test for their business resilience, and quite a few gaps have been exposed. While one plans for disruptions to the short-term continuity of the part of the operations, many business models are not built for such scenarios, which I'm sure we'll all appreciate. To strengthen business resilience, enterprises will need to adopt a systematic approach to revisit fundamentals and new ways of working. A start-stop approach could become the new norm depending on the conditions around the discovery of a vaccine. So how does one build an organization that can sustain or even thrive in a crisis rather than being overwhelmed by it? Disruption to business is not a new phenomenon, be it pandemic, war, transformational technology, or any other cause. The world has historically witnessed disruptions in some form or the other. While old ways of doing things collapse, businesses that invest in building resilience manage to grow uninterrupted, balanced resiliency, and growth is the only way to survive the pressure test of disruptions while staying ahead in the race, and technology plays a major role in that. In the past few months, we saw countries around the world unlock their economy, take proactive measures to restore confidence among consumers, and jumpstart economic activities. Even as we realize now that this crisis may be prolonged, it is interesting to note that many businesses have successfully reset the strategy and are reinventing the way they work as the impact of the disruption becomes more transparent. Many organizations stand out because of the way they manage the reaction to the crisis in the short term, while their long-term strategic vision remained intact regardless of the precarious business landscape created by the pandemic. It would be worthwhile to study what is so different about them, and they managed to continue their business without much of the interruption despite the pandemic and are poised to bounce back stronger once the dust settles. While we have learned a great deal about the need for building resilience in order to avoid being overwhelmed, when a major business disruption occurs, it is also the right time to think about augmenting the strategy with goals that focus on growth post the crisis. Once the pandemic runs its course, the world will witness fierce competition, with many enterprises armed with advanced technology and systems in place to run resilient enterprise with a strong growth engine. It is no more a matter of choice, but an imperative to start working on the post-pandemic growth strategy with lessons and learnings from the past disruptions. Well, let's appreciate the fact that business disruption is not a new phenomenon. Over the last 100 years, we've witnessed many and major and minor disruptions, and each of these disruptions have developed due to specific reasons such as transformation technology, systemic failures, geopolitical issues, and even a consequence of wars. Starting with the Great Depression in the 1920s and the aftermath that lasted for over a decade, we have seen the international debt crisis that rocked the global economy in the 1980s, and more recently the dot-com bubble and the global financial crisis that happened on the back of subprime crisis. The business disruption due to the current COVID-19 crisis is unparalleled in the history of disruptions, a profoundly disruptive event. Its impact has been differential across sectors. While some sectors have done well, many others have taken a severe hit. We can see a common thread across all disruptions where they hit business hard, primarily because they're largely unpredictable and the businesses were prepared, or unprepared rather, to weather crises of such magnitude. The positives that have emerged stronger and resilient from each of these scenarios. Many new normal scenarios have been created in terms of business models, transformational trends, and evolving customer expectations. Every disruption is associated with a multitude of companies going out of business, while the resilient survive and grow, the remaining struggle to stay afloat. One valuable lesson that we can derive from history is that when disruption strikes, we either innovate or perish. I repeat, we either innovate or perish. There is no third option, for sure. How a company is prepared and responds to such events defines its success. An ineffective response can have a far-reaching impact on the businesses and reputation, and detrimental for them in both the short and long term. The resilient enterprises have a high degree of flexibility that allows them to endure adversity and to come out unscathed. How does resilience help in reacting to a crisis and growing in the aftermath? If we consider the current COVID-19 crisis, the patterns we see is quite similar to the other disruptions that we have experienced in the past. The three stages that every enterprise goes through from the time a crisis erupts to the post-COVID crisis period is the same as I articulated from the KPMG HYSEA survey. Reaction resilience, recovery, new growth, and reality. Let me just talk about that growth phase a little bit. The growth phase is scaling growth in the new normal scenario. Enterprises need to be prepared and with strategies and execution plans to leverage that bouncing back that is anticipated in the economy. This is a critical stage since the first movers might have an early advantage, or the competition requires businesses to be agile, to pivot and address emerging opportunities. A large part of the solution can be addressed by leveraging technology smartly. Fortunately, we have technologies like AI and automation at our disposal as never before. We have come across many reports on how COVID-19 has been the biggest accelerator of digital transformation, very strangely. In fact, business resilience as a concept is an act of fine balance between the various phases, an ability to read the situation well and being nimble enough to respond with agility. One important aspect that we may want to address is balancing resilience with growth. In this innovate or perish scenario, organizations that have invested in a proactive resilience strategy have had a head start over others which have only begun investing in these initiatives. The organizations were also able to absorb the deliberating impact of the pandemic swiftly without incurring huge cost. Before the crisis unfolded, organizations focused sharply on growth and invested mostly in revenue-generating activities. For instance, many organizations did not invest in building resilience, be it a remote working infrastructure or adopting automation and AI. With businesses starting at a longer period of uncertainty than they previously anticipated, they are going on an overdrive to accelerate digital transformation and build systems that can help tackle the situation. This has put the post-pandemic growth strategy in the back burner. What we need today is a technology strategy that balances growth and resilience for businesses to continue without interruption, irrespective of any disruptions in the business environment. This calls for a careful evaluation of technologies that can contribute to both resilience and growth. Let me just narrate few such strategies. One, AI across artificial intelligence across value chains. Most organizations are built on a set of processes and value chains that enable operations and differentiate against the competition. A strong digital foundation and AI infused in the value chain will help build a cognitive and connected enterprise. To quote an example, consumer experience has been a buzzword for long and has become all the more important in today's uncertain times. Businesses can no longer rely on a transactional approach but need to think with intelligence and agility. A successful enterprise is characterized by its ability to provide contextual, personalized, and meaningful customer interactions, all the while delivering exceptional experiences. Well, this is made possible by building cognitive capabilities that can unlock the information and insights in not just a single value chain, but by connecting them across the organization. The second strategy is the supply chain transformation. One of the biggest areas impacted due to COVID-19 has been both the local and global supply chain. We witnessed many stockout situations from retail outlets across countries. Hence, it becomes crucial for an enterprise to have visibility across the demand side and the supply side of the value chain to ensure customer satisfaction without missing out on a new business opportunities. The third one is unlocking intelligence from your enterprise documents. Unstructured data, document text, voice, images, videos accounts for almost 80% of the enterprise data today. Imagine tapping into these documents with AI to gain real-time insights. This can transform the entire decision-making process of an organization and provide the ability to function better across all three phases of react, recover, and grow. Intelligent automation is the last and final strategy that I would like to propose here. This technology continues to evolve fast with higher integration of AI and is one of the most preferred ways to maintain productivity and lower cost during both normal and challenging times. With many benefits like being efficient, scalable, and affordable, automation also helps businesses maintain uninterrupted operations, especially during situations around business continuity or unplanned workplace closure. So we are headed towards accelerated digitization. With technology takes center stage, the digital future is here, and it's almost a binary go digital or shutdown scenario. We have seen the organizations in advanced stages of their digital transformation initiatives. Their position definitely better to handle the current crisis. Companies have been forced overnight to reinvent their offline businesses to online and decentralize the workforce. Over the last few weeks, we have seen our customers to leverage AI and automation for numerous new use cases. These range from enhancing business continuity with digital workers, loan processing, invoice and claims management, contract analysis to identifying risk and resolving IT issues to support remote work. With stocks out of essential items happening across many countries, consumer and packaged goods organizations have also leveraged AI-enabled business apps to bring real-time visibility into the downstream trade ecosystem. A trend seen globally is AI and RPA, or powering contactless customer experience. AI, automation, and cloud adoption will become critical for business resilience for refining processes and operations to ensure business growth. Business resilience is a new corporate buzzword and fast becoming central to every company strategy. The COVID-19 crisis we faced was impossible to predict, but the insights and learnings have been plenty. As organizations pursue disruptive change, they will need to inspire internally and externally to reimagine their current businesses and the new possibilities to sustain and thrive in the new model. Organizations that successfully achieve the delicate balance between resilience and growth stand a better chance to continue their business uninterrupted, overcoming the external and destabilizing forces with ease. In summary, tomorrow will be a new normal than today. Try to make it even better. Many thanks for the opportunity. Stay safe and positive. We will get over this very soon. Wishing this event a grand success. Thanks one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Yeah, true indeed. Business resilience is the way to go forward in times of pandemic. And thanks for sharing your thoughts. I actually requested the audience if there are any questions for you. There is one question that's posted on the chat box. Mr. B.S. Gandhi is asking, the webinars that you mentioned, are they open for all or are they open only for HYSEA members? So you are on mute. I think you got muted.
Yeah, so the HYSEA website is open for all, and all the information in terms of the reports or even some of the videos of our previous summits that we have done, all are out there in the resources section. Please feel free to kind of reach out. If you're not able to access it, send an email to info@hysea.in. We'll be able to kind of get back to you with the information.
Sure. There is one more question, sir, as a follow-up. I'm assuming, is there a roadmap for individuals to pursue the needed skills? Has HYSEA published any such roadmap for the webinars?
Yeah. See, let me also share. I don't mean to be, scaring people away, but the reality today is that out of about 4.5 million IT employees we have in the country, only 20% are digitally skilled. When I say digitally skilled, they're all like kind of skills in the emerging digital technologies like the AI, big data, cybersecurity, blockchain, whatever you call it as, right? So in the next 4 to 5 years, there's going to be four to five times increased demand in the digital technologies. And let me also give another perspective. The next 5 years, 5 to 6 years, I would say, 65% of the current jobs, right, may not have relevance, in the new context, because digital technology is going to be changing the entire landscape very fast. That some of these jobs are going to be kind of not, I'm not saying it is not going to be existent, but they're going to be not relevant because digital technologies are emerging so fast. So my request is that we have already started embarking on training, right, students and also the IT industry on the emerging digital technologies. And those who have missed, we have had a big session, a series of sessions with the, on these digital technologies on TV5, and all these, recording of these digital technology training is available on our internet, on YouTube, and also on our website. So as I said, if you have any challenges accessing them, please do reach out to us, info@hysea.in, or you can even email me at president@hysea.in. We'll be more than happy to share with you.
Thank you very much. There is one last question, sir. I hope there is time for that. You have 2 more minutes. So the question is from Suraj Kumar, and he says, how many years from now do you expect cloud, AI, and the intelligent automation technologies to flourish? And not just, I know they are now emerging and they're picking up, but in your view, how much time it will take for them to start flourishing?
Well, I think, good question. Believe me, I will not be surprised, right? The next 2 years, cloud adoption might even go up to more than 80%, right? Already, there are a lot of statistics that prove that it's kind of come closer to 45 to 50%, right? And I know that there's been some apprehensions in some sectors, for example, BFSI, in terms of cloud adoption. But you know what? I think they're also moving, that mindset, they're also moving from the private cloud to even public cloud. So be aware, things are just picking up very fast. 2021 is going to be a very, very crucial year for us, because from whatever we have learned, and in order to just keep the business agility, we have to move fast, right? So which means growth is going to be tied to agility and speed. With that said, 2021 is going to be very crucial. The next 2 years, the answer for what your question is will be answered with certainty.
I hope so too, sir. Thank you. I think we sneaked in one last question just before we close in. So as per your survey, what are the industry leaders in Hyderabad thinking about return to office? Any timelines you think? I know it's a very interesting question to answer, and just thought if you could share your light.
See, return to office, right? Primarily, the major setbacks were, that the vaccine is not here, and the apprehension in employees about, let's say, how safe is the office, all right? And the third thing is also employers' perspective. They were also kind of a little bit concerned as to how to provide, a very, virus-free environment, kind of, right? Not the computer virus, but they can't help it. We're talking about this, virus. But end of the day, the latest survey kind of indicated that employees are very motivated to come back to work. One of the primary reasons is that the work environment at home, I mean, with all due respects to our families, right, and being at home and all that, but now the work environment at home is not that very conducive enough for performing our task very effectively and efficiently, number one. Number two, the professional enrichment, and again, what we call it as the social company, a company of my colleague, right, is really being missed. So there's a lot of, kind of motivation, encouragement among the employees to come back to work. At the same time, organizations are also looking at how soon we can bring them back, right? So some of the multinationals would have just said that, okay, we're going to be working until end of March 2021, right? Work from home. Some companies even gone to the extent of saying end of Q2. But what we see is the trend, as the survey brought about, is that the leaders are, kind of anticipating by end of first quarter of 2021, there'll be at least a decent size of about 40% coming back to work. And I think by end of third quarter, close to 80%. So, I mean, the numbers could change. It all depends on, the vaccine, how soon it's going to come and how it's going to be administered to all the public, all that stuff. But what I can only say from my own experience, our feelings and apprehensions about 6 months before was so different, and the fear, I mean, as Krishna Praveen mentioned, right, we moved away from that free fear zone, but now it is definitely not there, right, to some extent, but not to that extent, right, that we went through a couple of months ago. So that itself shows that, right, the very important aspect that we have to learn to live with COVID. Today it's COVID, tomorrow it could be something else, right? As the chairman managing director of Bharat Biotech, right, who's kind of working on this COVID Covaxin, he mentioned that there are at least at any point in time 500 plus, like say, viruses which are unknown that could come into a civilization at any point in time, because COVID just came without any alarm. So that is the way life is going to be as we move forward, because as we deforest many things, the viruses from there obviously come into our civilized area. So please be, confident that first quarter is going to be very, very hopeful for us, and many people will start coming in to the office. And please do come back to work. We're all here to support you.
Thank you very much for those encouraging words. I'm sure a lot of people are eagerly waiting to get back to office, and nice that organizations are focused in making sure that the offices are a virus-free environment for them. So on that note, thank you very much for joining us, spending time and sharing your thoughts on the theme for the conference. It was very enriching. I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed hearing from you. And